John, we're back. And I imagine you're the kind of person that would like a free television.
Rob, who doesn't like free? Really, who doesn't like free? I mean, free is just the way to go in life for almost anything. Or am I wrong about
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, if you're free, you get a free product. That's the phrase, right?
Yeah. Free as in free software or free as in beer. What do they say? Free as in speech.
That's it. Yeah, all of that.
All of that. Free's good no matter what you're talking about as far as I'm concerned. You've got a product for me that's free, which has got me very excited.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm looking at freetelly.com right now. And this isn't just a TV. This isn't a TV with one screen. This is a TV with two screens.
Oh, it's got a special screen.
Right. And I can't take this seriously. This is a TV.
Yeah.
With a secondary, a TV touch bar, if you will, below it. A very skinny little...
Yeah, so although you're not supposed to touch it, you just get fingerprints on it, I think, is all you'd accomplish by touching it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a little sort of... just a very... maybe like a third of the height of the TV underneath.
Right.
Again.
With kind of a sound bar in between the TV and this bar, basically, right?
Right, and the sound bar, I think, has a camera in it as well. These all sounding good for a free product so far.
Yeah, I mean, you get extra. You get a second screen until you realize that second screen is basically dedicated to advertisements. Now, when you go to their website, the first thing you'll see is that about 3/4 of it, you get the weather, you get the NBA scores, you get your stock ticker, because who doesn't need that everywhere? I mean, Apple knows that much. you get some headlines down the bottom about King Charles and Prince Harry, and then you get an ad which is nothing but the Kia logo, which is an odd choice because the new Kia logo is not particularly recognizable. When I look at it, all I ever see is 9-inch nails backwards.
Yeah.
That's to me what that is.
Yeah, totally agree.
But in any event, this is a free TV.
Yeah, so the business model here, it's essentially you get a free TV if you give them your data and watch their ads. I dug into the terms a little bit just so I was more curious. I certainly wasn't going to put one of these in my house. And you have to be connected to the internet basically permanently. Like, I think if you're offline for more than 24 hours, they fine you or they charge you for the TV or something. And if you cover up the bottom bit of the TV, so like the secondary little touch bar type strip, the TV strip down the bottom, like, because it's got a camera, I think they can know that you've covered it up. So like, you're not allowed to cover any part of this, so you can't sort of get a free TV and then avoid all the ads.
It's got microphones in it too, apparently.
Good.
Yeah, I did not research this a lot, but I did listen to an episode of the Vergecast, which, if you're into tech and you like a good generalist show that covers more than just Apple news, I think the Vergecast is one of the better ones out there. I really think it's very good. It's one of the ones that I listen to kind of keep myself from getting too caught up in the echo chamber that is your typical Apple-only reporting. And so it's a good way to get a more balanced view sometimes and also learn about some other companies, which I find interesting too. But in any event, this free telly has cameras. It has a microphone. As you said, that's there mainly to apparently keep you in check and make sure that you're actually viewing the ads, or in, how many people are in the room, how often, that kind of stuff. And one of the things that's particularly funny about this is that it doesn't have, despite being what looks like it looks like it's some sort of smart TV, and it does have internet connectivity, but it doesn't have any streaming services built into it. No Netflix, no Hulu, no Apple TV, none of that. What it does is it ships with a Chromecast dongle in the box. Now, it doesn't specify who the maker of this is. It's some sort of Android TV streaming stick for casting and streaming through that. And I guess the Verge people assumed that this was done this way to avoid the royalties that would come with having to have the hardware built into the set itself. So instead, they throw a little stick in the box there that you can hook into one of the HDMI inputs, which is really pretty bad.
There you go. You get a free dongle with your free telly.
Exactly.
It's this. I am still, even though we're talking about it, The Verge has spoken about it. You know, it was a bunch of places reported on it.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced this isn't a joke.
It's so I guess it's running some fork of Android. I know that. If you don't watch the ads, if you somehow disconnect or cover the bottom part, they charge you, at least in the United States, they charge you $500 for the TV. And one of the other points The Verge had is if all they're doing is charging you $500 for this TV, you got, for a 55-inch supposedly 4K HDR display, you got to imagine that this is a pretty low quality panel.
It's got to be. I mean, you know, as somebody who's just bought a TV a little bit bigger than this, but essentially this kind of spec.
Yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot size, 55. But it's not. It's, you know, that's a good size. That's a good size panel. I mean, they really start getting really expensive over 70, but still, they're more than $500, especially if they're 4K usually.
Yeah, this is just a very strange. This seems like a really good way for a VC to throw away money very quickly.
Yeah, it does.
You know, you're shipping huge bits of hardware around the country. You've somehow got to, you know, charge people's cards or go and collect these TVs if people don't want them anymore. Like this is a very strange.
Yeah, how does that work?
Strange idea.
Yeah, how does that work if you just don't want the TV anymore? I mean, if it has to be connected, does it? Do you get a bill the minute you unplug your TV and put it to the curb? You know, like if it breaks and you can't use it anymore.
Yeah, I have no idea. Like I said, this feels like this won't last 6 months.
No,
you know, I don't think anyone's actually got their hands on these yet. You know, they've put this page up and we've all gone, oh, it says free telly, like, what a stupid product. But I guess we'll see if anybody actually ever gets one of these shipped, or if some marketing company goes, haha, it was a joke. It was, you know, this is an art installation about privacy or something.
Yeah, they compared it to the QCat on the Vergecast, which I thought was pretty funny. The QCat was a cat-shaped barcode scanner that you could scan QR codes with in the early 2000s. It was, then the whole notion was that you would take these scanners while you're sitting at your computer. They connected by USB-C, they're USB-A, and you would scan QR codes in print magazines to learn more about products.
Sure.
And that lasted about 6 months. You should look it up sometime. It's CUE, cat, I think. So.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a very, very good, it's one word. There's a very good Wikipedia page about the QCat, and they look very funny. And a lot of people, I think, oh yeah, they weren't even USB-A. They're showing it now. They had a PS2 connector, the type the type you used to use for keyboards, I believe, right? And
yes,
and they were they were a lot of people hacked them. The company started suing people for hacking them. And it was a whole thing, really. It was. I remember them being in Wired magazine. Yes, it says that here on the Wikipedia page. So there, that's my little bit of old knowledge. I'm dropping some old timey computer knowledge on you, Rob.
Thank you. This is what I come here for.
Yeah, you do. I bet you weren't even born yet when the QCat was out.
Right. No, you're just being silly. No. And I appreciate you thinking I'm that young.
Okay. All right. What else you want to talk about today? Because I know that I guess you want to talk about the Beats headphones, right?
Yeah. So this is what do we call this? We call this Follow Out, I believe. So some of the podcasters are calling this. So you were on Connected.
I was. It feels like a lifetime ago, but it was only like a week ago.
Yeah. So you slipped into Mike's slot on Connected, yep. And you guys were talking about the new Beats Studio Buds Plus, which is the ones with the really cool transparent plastic.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, it feels like ages ago. It was only a week ago. But I feel like you mentioned does anybody use these or whatever? I don't have the Plus model because I'm not even sure what the Plus means. But I do have the normal Beats Studio Buds, which is, I think maybe we might have discussed this, but I bought those because they were like a third of the price of new AirPods Pros.
Yeah, like 6 months ago you got them, right?
Yeah, something like that. So there was just a note that to say like that, they're pretty good. Like they're a pretty good option if you want something that's a bit cheaper than the AirPods Pro. Like they don't do wireless charging, but
yeah,
that really hasn't been a massive problem for me.
No, that's good. I had forgotten that. I don't think I was the one who said who uses these, because I do know that a lot of people use these. I know that they're very popular with both people looking for less expensive headphones on the iPhone as well as Android. And the new ones, from what I have read, have slightly better noise cancellation, better battery life, I think. A couple of other tweaks. It's just like, most of the things that they were good at before slightly tweaked so they're a little better than they were before that. And they cost a little bit more too. Not a lot more, but they do cost more. And the clear ones I thought were pretty cool looking. I considered these for a hot second, because I consider a lot of things like this, but I didn't buy them because what I have I always forget the name of them. The ones with the over-ear hooks that are for exercising.
Yeah, the Beats. The Beats Fit Pro.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. And the reason I got those was because at one point I was using first generation AirPods when I would go for runs, and I destroyed them with sweat. They just didn't have the water resistance they needed for like going out for a run in the summertime. And I live in a hot environment now, especially, and I did that, and I guess, and so I got the Beats Fit ones, and if these had the kind of water resistance that those had, I would definitely consider it. Now, I know they do have a non-over-the-ear fitness Beats headphone that are wireless, and I would consider those, but not until they're clear.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I want everything in clear plastic now.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the main reason I was attracted to these in the first place. And plus, right now, the ones I have, maybe if I become like an ultra marathoner again and can actually exercise more, I'll use them more, but they only get used like a couple of times a week usually. So they're lasting basically forever. And until they break, I don't really need any new ones. So I'm going to stick with the ones I have and, see how it goes. But you got some other new headphones recently.
I did. These fit into the very similar category of what I bought the Beats Studio Buds, whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah.
In that I needed I wanted some noise cancelling over-ear headphones for the office mostly, and then when I'm traveling about and stuff. But I didn't want to spend a huge amount of money. And I'd heard good things about Anker's Soundcore range. They've got some like little wireless like AirPod Pro type things, and they've got a whole bunch of different headphones. And I had a look around. They've got the Q20s, which I think were their first over-ear ones, and they seemed like pretty good. I sort of watched a few reviews, and then I saw they were micro USB, and I'm like, well, I'm not buying those. It's ridiculous. It's 2023. I'm not buying anything with micro USB anymore. That's ridiculous. So I jumped up to the Q30, that's just like obviously their newer model over the Q20.
Right.
And when I was browsing, Amazon had a one in their warehouse, which was like a certified refurbished and 25% off that refurbished price. So I paid like 50% of the retail price for these. They turned up, and as far as I can tell, somebody had literally just returned them to Amazon. They'd never even been opened. Like, they were still factory sealed. So I got a hell of a bargain on them, which was nice. But, yeah, the noise cancelling is not as good as, like, some of the higher-end ones.
Right.
Some of my colleagues have got some of the Sony ones and Bose and stuff like that, which, they're in the sort of £300 range.
Right.
But these kind of do the job, once you've got... If the noise cancelling is good enough, like once the music's playing as well, you're not going to hear anything anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really impressed with them. Like they're pretty comfy. I've been wearing them, 5-6 hours a day at work.
Oh, that's cool.
When I'm in the office, and yeah, I think I paid £42 for these or something, which is
good.
Really not a lot of money.
Yeah,
and the battery life's been really good. I haven't charged them since I bought them, and I've had them like 2 weeks. I didn't even charge them when they came out of the box. I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'll just use whatever's on there. And still going now. Like I say, they're pretty comfortable. The sound is pretty good once I messed around with the equalizer. Because they've got a little iOS app that you can download to edit how it sounds, and I messed around with that a bit. I found something I like for the kind of music I listen to.
Yeah.
These are a pretty good option if you're sort of looking for something that's a bit cheaper than, the high-end ones that everybody knows about.
Right. I think that the reason that micro USB still persists, and especially, is really for those kind of products like the Q20, which are the cheaper headphones, because I got to imagine that the licensing for that port is a lot cheaper at this point because it's been around for so long. I think that's what it is. And I think it's like a lot of times you still see it in like some camera equipment and other audio gear and things. And it's, to me, it's just like at this point, mostly a cost cutting thing for a lot of these companies, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we've been buying a few bits for the baby and stuff that have rechargeable batteries.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is micro USB. Like none of that is USB-C.
Interesting.
Which, is fine. We've just got a couple of micro USBs in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Just for charging this stuff, which is really, it's not a problem.
Right.
But for something for me personally, I was like, no, I'm gonna upgrade a bit and go for the USB-C version.
Yeah, it's a little more of a problem if you're like carrying it to work or traveling or whatever, because it just means another cable, which is just kind of a hassle. But you're right. I mean, I know people get very upset about cables and connectors. I wouldn't want to upset the dongle industrial complex.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
So
definitely not.
You know what? I should tell you about something, Rob. I should tell you about a new iPad Pro I've been using. I got a fancy iPad Pro from Apple because I've been testing out Logic Pro for iPad and also nice. Final Cut Pro for iPad. And spoiler, they're both good. Logic is a lot better than Final Cut Pro in terms of its polish. I think Final Cut Pro, they must have run out of time. It's not quite as compatible with the Mac version as Logic is. Logic is, I quite like Logic. I think it's, I think the design is superior to the Mac, but it's not quite as capable as the Mac either. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the latest iPad Pro, which is not even an iPad that I got myself because I was like, well, the iPad doesn't really do much more than it used to, so why would I buy a new iPad? And I didn't. So they wanted, of course, for me to have the best experience with the these Pro apps, because they do push this thing. I mean, especially Final Cut, the battery takes a hit while you're editing video. But I really like things like Hover. I mean, I know this is not new anymore. It came out last fall, but the main hardware difference now is that the screen, you can hover over things and it actually previews things. Now, Logic doesn't take advantage of this, but Final Cut Pro does. And what's really neat is, like, say you pause your video in a particular place. You can take the pencil and you can hover over the timeline and you can preview the track, your video track with sound by hovering over it and scrub through the video until you find something you want and then tap it to move the playhead there. Whereas, and if you don't tap it, the playhead doesn't move. It's scrubbing through this stuff without actually changing the playhead, which, presumably you stopped it in a place you wanted it to be. So that's actually a good thing to have it not follow the hover. And so that's kind of cool. I haven't used it in a lot of other places. I mean, it does things like kind of makes the icons wiggle right before you tap on them on the screen. But beyond that, I don't know. It's a pretty cool iPad. It's very much like the one I have, but this one, Apple loves the white keyboard case. They sent it to me, and I'm waiting for it to look dirty. So far, mine's okay though. I mean, it's not like I use the iPad all day long, so I haven't really. But I haven't really, I don't know. I haven't taken it anywhere dirty, I guess. I've tossed it in my backpack. I was away for the weekend and I tossed it in my backpack and it survived that. And I've been carrying it around the house and stuff like that. But it's still looking good. My understanding is it will look dirty eventually. I mean, even the gray one starts looking dirty after you carry it around a lot. But I've got the white keyboard case, which it really does. Until it gets dirty, it does look pretty nice. I got to admit, it is kind of a sleek looking one. I mean, Apple doesn't do colors with the iPad Pro of any note. So even just having white feels like a major departure.
Oh yeah, I mean professionals don't need colours.
No,
John.
they don't.
We know this.
We know this very, very well. But, you know, I don't think I
mean,
ever told you. I went and saw the yellow iPhone.
Oh yeah,
The yellow iPhone, I don't like the yellow. It looks like Easter basket yellow or something. It's got a very pastel-y springtime look to it, which, I mean, it came out in the spring around Easter, so it makes sense, I suppose. But I'm not a big fan of the color. I did see it in person because I did 8 round trips as my Mac Studio was getting fixed from being hit by lightning. So that's an old story that I've talked about a lot on App Stories. But it seems to be all fixed now, except for the fact that somehow in the process, I've gotten to the point where I can't add credit cards to the wallet on the Mac, so I can't use Apple Pay on the Mac, which is irritating.
That's not useful.
It's irritating. And you know what they did when I told them about this on the support line? They said, oh, that's a known issue with this model of Mac. Just try again later. And I'm like, really? There's a hardware thing that keeps me from putting a credit card in? Because it goes through the whole like sign up process, you know?
Yeah.
And you can see like the messages changing, like contacting your bank, you know, verifying your identity, whatever the messages are. It gets to the last one. And it fails and says try again later. It's like, well, I've tried several times and it doesn't work. And, you know, so now what I do is I just airdrop the link to my phone and I buy it on my phone. It's not as big a deal as you might think, only because like the drop in your credit card information in a Safari form works totally fine. It's just when it's an Apple Pay button on a website, which is actually a very convenient way to buy things because it's so streamlined. It doesn't work for me at all. And and here's the problem with that too. When you call support, their first instinct is, oh, his credit card was denied. He must be bad credit, and that's what the problem is. And it's like, no, it works on my phone, it works on my iPad, it works everywhere else. And I've set it up even on this new iPad they sent me since the problems. And so it works everywhere for me, except on the computer I sit in front of all day. So there's that. That's my daily, my paper cut of the week.
There we go.
Yes.
Well, let's wrap it up there.
That's a good place to do it. So if you're out there, know that the white iPad keyboard case looks sleek. Probably will look nasty after a couple of weeks, though. So beware, beware, buyer.
There you go. There's a consumer advice.
That's my consumer.
That's what you come in for.
Insightful consumer advice. Yes,
absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, I will speak to you in a couple of weeks then, John.
All right. Bye-bye.